you ask me the question and
Yeah. Okay, so we're live now. Good evening. Welcome to the Global Brain Project Google Hangout. And this is a hangout in which David Russell, the founder of the Global Brain Project, will be discussing different issues around the Global Brain Project and meditation. And we do this every Friday night at 11:45 UK, 6:45 Eastern Daylight Time, and it's the Global Brain Project meditations happen on Saturday, 6 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 11 a.m. UK, and also at 12:30 Eastern Daylight Time and 5:30 UK time. Um, so I'd like to introduce David Russell. He's the founder. Hello, David. How are you tonight?
hi, Peter. Hello, everybody. That was beautifully done, Peter. You got the times right.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I don't get the times right, Peter. Um, yes, I'm fine. I hope everybody is fine. Everybody's having a good time. Um, shall we start? What shall we start with, Peter?
Well, we had a question from a young man named Rashid, and his question was, how does one enter into the spirit world?
Right. Interesting question, this.
Yeah.
Um, I assume that Rashid is talking about actually having contact with spirits. And the simple answer is one doesn't. Spirits, if they exist, exist on a completely different plane unless you have particular skills and talents that lead you to be able to communicate with that plane if it exists. You don't have anything to do with them. I mean, I've been a spiritual person for all of my life. I've practiced meditation for over 45 years. Um, if I was going to meet an angel or a spirit or an alien, I mean, I've been waiting for the mothership to come for me for years. If I were to meet an alien, I would believe them. I would really would believe in them. But I have never had any experiences like that whatsoever. Now, maybe that is a deficiency in me, but quite frankly, pragmatically, I think it is a defining aspect of life on this plane. We are engaged in living and having contact with the spirit world, having contact with the dead, um, talking to angels, talking to aliens. Sorry, they have to be flights of the imagination. If they are not flights of the imagination, I don't know what they are, but whatever they are, it's not very complimentary. I don't. I mean, I don't. I think that you have to believe your own experience, and if your own experience does not include these things, or in the case of Rashid, if your own experience does not include at least a passing contact with the spirit world, give up. Don't go for it. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Practice your meditation and develop your spirituality naturally. And if you're going to be contacted by spirits, they will contact you. Don't look for it. Don't wait for it. Don't hope for it. Just let it be. Let it be. If you're going to get contacted, you will. I personally have never had any experiences like that whatsoever. Um, excuse me. I mean, I don't actually think about myself much in defining terms. But I suppose if you were going to define me, you would define me as a spiritual person. So I'm a spiritual person. If I'm not getting contact with unseen entities I don't think they can exist. I mean, maybe that's a vanity on my part, but as I said, maybe this is a deficiency in me. Maybe there are people who can contact these entities, who can engage with them, but quite frankly, I believe this is actually a matter of delusion. I believe it's a matter of delusion and ego. People want to distinguish themselves. They talk about stuff that you can do nothing but believe. You cannot validate this stuff for yourself. All you can do is believe what they tell you. And quite frankly, believing what other people tell you is a foolish mistake. Believe what you know, what you experience. That's the thing to believe. That's the only thing that's real. And even that is not necessarily very real. So that's what I have to say about the spirit world. I honestly and truly, personally, and this is a very personal view, I don't think the spirit world exists. I think we live, we evolve, we die, we live again, and it's as simple as that. Maybe at higher levels of consciousness, one gets this contact. Um, at higher levels of consciousness, they talk about, and I have to a certain extent experienced this, an association with God, where you actually see God in everything around you. And I have had this experience, but it wasn't a case of seeing an entity, a person, a guy with a long beard. It was just everything glowed. Everything glowed with this essence that I just knew it is actually something very particular. It is pure being. These things cannot encapsulate the essence of God without existing. They have to be. And God exists in their being, as it were, as indeed God exists in our being. If you think about us, to act, you have to think. So what precurses thinking? Well, being actually comes before thinking. You have to be to think. And without that being, you cannot think. So it's in being that God exists. I hope to a large extent that's answered Rashid's question, perhaps not to his satisfaction or to anybody's, but at least it's answered it. I wanted to talk today, excuse me, about today being Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima is an important day in the Sanskrit calendar. It occurs on the first full moon in July. Quite often there are two full moons in July. The second full moon is a blue moon, of course. And it is a day on which we celebrate and thank our gurus. Today I posted a video, a music video, taken from the George Harrison Memorial Concert of My Sweet Lord. And that is how I celebrate Guru Purnima these days. There is a very nice story attached to this video. Some years ago, I had just come from Amsterdam to look after my mother who was suffering from dementia. And I'd always, up until that time, on Guru Purnima, I'd always gone to a meditation centre and we did a puja and chanted the names of the great tradition from which the meditation I practice comes. But on this occasion, because I live out miles from anywhere, I couldn't find anywhere that was doing a puja that I could actually get to. And on the morning of Guru Purnima, this video turned up in my mailbox. And I thought to myself, well, I know where this is from. This is my gift from the cosmos. this is my way to celebrate Guru Purnima. And I played it, and it encapsulates everything that, for me, Guru Purnima is about. On Guru Purnima, I spend a lot of time thanking my Guru. I mean, the technique that comes from my Guru via Maharishi Mahesh Yogi has done so much for me. It's changed me immeasurably. It's changed my life immeasurably. I owe so much to Guru Dev and to Maharishi, and I spend a lot of my time just celebrating them, my life, the cosmos, which I also spend a lot of time thanking, because in the final analysis, the cosmos is the ultimate guru. The cosmos, it's the cosmos that teaches us everything. And Guru Purnima for me, very important day. It is a great day. It's a great day because it is a day dedicated to giving thanks. And it is the case that we should all be giving thanks frequently, all the time, in fact. Life is such a great experience. Life is such a glorious experience. It's an experience full of opportunity and, well, adventure, if you want to take it that way. Life has so much within it that is good, although quite often we cannot actually see the good because we are being assaulted by our karma at the time. However, just being alive, just being here now is such a vital, precious and glorious experience that everybody should be celebrating it. Everybody should be thanking the cosmos for being here. Everybody should be glorifying their life, their existence, and the gifts they've been given, even if you have not received the ultimate gift, which for me is meditation. Meditation is the ultimate gift because it is through meditation that you actually commit to evolution. You evolve all the time, all the time. Every moment you are in a state of evolution. When you practice a meditation, you move from the normal evolutionary path into a faster track. And in that faster track, you are committed to evolution, and evolution is committed to you. It's a really, really crucial thing. So, anything else, Peter? Anything else I should say?
Well, I just posted on the page the video that David is referring to. So you can either go to David's page or to the Global Brain Project Hangout page and to view that video. What else would you say about, well, actually, what would you say about the relationship of George Harrison to Guru Purnima?
Oh, well, it is the case, of course, that all the Beatles still, the ones that are alive, meditate. Ringo Starr's just got involved with David Lynch's trust. David Lynch, surprise, surprise, long-term meditator. And Ringo is the man least likely to, if you know what I mean. So far as I know, John meditated all the time he was living at the Dakota. All the time he was in New York, not doing much else. What Lennon seems to have done, and I have researched this, is he smoked loads of dope and meditated. George, of course, never stopped meditating. Paul has never stopped meditating. Ringo was the dubious one, but if he's working with David Lynch, I figure he's got to be meditating. And you know, Maharishi never really, although it was the Beatles that made TM a global event, as it were, Maharishi never really liked the fact that the Beatles were involved in the movement. Um, he felt that the Beatles made it too much of a hippie thing, and Maharishi was very straight. However, to a certain extent, the Beatles were the catalyst that brought meditation out from the shadows into the spotlight. I mean, without the Beatles, we'd probably still be groping around trying to work out what this is all about. But following the Beatles, for a long time afterwards, in the States, the TM movement were initiating 10,000 people a day. A day. I mean, it just got absolutely massive. It was really good for the movement, really good for the world, but really bad for Maharishi. Maharishi didn't want it to go that way. Maharishi didn't want, I mean, it got so big they had to bring in accountants to handle the money. Maharishi didn't want a formal organization. When Maharishi was running this, what we used to do for donation wise was you used to give 1 week's salary. And if you weren't working, you gave whatever you could afford. Um, it was the accountants that made it necessary to go for fixed fees, very expensive fixed fees, I have to say. Maharishi didn't want that. He didn't like it at all, but there was not much he could do about it. There was a point when George Harrison, not long before he died, offered to do a benefit concert for Maharishi. And Maharishi said, "Thank you very much, but no thank you." He really didn't want the movement associated again with drug-using hippies, as it were. Um, Personally, I don't think it matters much. I mean, from my point of view, um, drugs are um, an entry point to spirituality. Through drugs, you open doors that take a long time otherwise to open. However, for Maharishi, the Beatles were not a great thing. He was not happy about them, really. Um, there was a time, I mean, when I first started meditating, the Beatles were at Rishikesh in India, and there was a lot of interesting stuff going on at that stage. At that point in the history of the movement, the TM movement, people used to do very, very long meditations. And this all changed. Slowly, Maharishi refined and refined and refined the technique. But people did very long meditations, and they used to unstress very heavily. And that's what happened to the Beatles at Rishikesh. They unstressed very heavily, and they fell out with Maharishi. It's as simple as that. Um, but what Maharishi did was he introduced a technique called rounding, where you do 20 minutes meditation and some asanas, and you'd rest, and you did that in. It was called rounding, and that stopped the really heavy unstressing. If you meditate, one of the great things about this meditation is you only do it for 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes you can't excite your karma too much. Do it for 3 hours and your karma gets very excited. It doesn't necessarily produce good karma or bad karma, it just produces karma. It's karma that's existing, it's waiting to come out, and meditating will make it come out, it will make it move faster. That is one of the key things about meditation. Meditation, when you meditate, you are unstressing, And stress and karma are so intimately linked, they are almost the same thing. They are so close to each other, they are almost the same thing. This is a personal validation of my own, but anyone who meditates for a long time will come to the same conclusion. Meditation and unstressing and karma, same thing. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I have another question. How did you begin meditating?
How do you, or how did
How did you personally? What was your personal journey to begin meditation and in particular TM?
Well, in fact, what happened was in 1967, I was doing lots and lots and lots of drugs. Pre 1967, 1964 to 67, I'd been doing a lot of speed. I was a mod. You probably don't know what a mod is, but I was doing Purple Hearts and Nigger Minstrels and real big speed.
Mm.
And what speed did for me was it introduced me to karma. I didn't know what it was, but I did notice that every time I used a lot of speed, something bad happened to me. And I just could not help but tie those two things together. It happened with such regularity. So that's one aspect of this. A couple of weeks ago, I told you I was dealing acid, and George Harrison rang me and asked me to take down to Epsom, where he lived, some trips. And I went down to Epsom, and in his living room was full of people when I got there. Donovan was there, Mick Jagger was there, Marianne Faithfull, all of the Beatles, who else? Patty Boyd, Jenny Boyd, people from the Apple. Apple had not actually come into existence at that stage, but people like Magic Alex were there. And I sold George, gave George the acid, and he gave me the money. And then a fleet of limousines pulled up outside the front door. And Patty Boyd said, "Okay, everybody, let's go." So everybody trooped out to the limousines, and I trooped out with them. I had no idea where we were going. But in that sort of company, you stick with them. If they say, "Let's go," you go. So I was sitting in a car with Patty Boyd, Jenny Boyd, Donovan, and someone else. I can't think who else it was. And we ended up at the Hilton Hotel. And the Beatles were greeted with great celebrity, of course, loads of photographers. The rest of us just hovered around in the background. And we all trooped into the Hilton Hotel. And it was Maharishi. Maharishi was giving an introductory lecture. And he was just wonderful. At that lecture, Maharishi talked about karma, and I thought, shit, I recognise this. I didn't know it had a name, and it was like a blinding light. I thought, wow, this is something really special I'm getting here. And anyway, the Beatles all went in to see Maharishi afterwards, and I went home. But he impressed me tremendously, and I mean, I was not in daily contact with the Beatles. It wasn't like I was a friend of theirs. I was just someone that they used. And what I did was I found out about introductory talks, went to an introductory where they talked more about karma, and I thought, wow, this has got to be for me. At the time, I'd been using a lot of acid, and I'd just started to read books on Buddhism and Hinduism. So this all kind of fitted in. I mean, I said that drugs are a doorstep medium to spirituality. They open doors. that other things don't open. And these were the doors that it had opened for me. I was reading about Buddhism. I was reading about Hinduism. So Maharishi coming along at that time, wow. And I mean, in retrospect, I realised I was in the grip of big, big, big karma at the time. It was crucial karma. It was good karma, the best karma you can possibly have. I mean, I was given this technique. I mean, admittedly, I got it in a roundabout way, but I got this technique, and it has never let me down. It's just been wonderful ever since I started to do it. It's never let me down. It's always been there for me. And as I have said in the past, the fact that I am more enthusiastic about it now than I have ever been in my life is very, very, very meaningful. I mean, this thing has sustained, more than sustained, over nearly 50 years. Something that good has got to be good. Any
Yeah.
more?
Absolutely. Well, no, that's fantastic. I love that story, David. And
I should say, Peter, I have been incredibly lucky all my life. I mean, I have just been really, really lucky. I have always been in the right place at the right time. I mean, I was in London when music was exploding. I was going to clubs 5, 6 times a week, seeing people like the Stones and the Animals, and I mean, classic people. Um, that was such a gift. It was such a gift to be born at the time I was born, and I have just been extraordinarily lucky. However, anyone who gets this meditation technique, they have the potential to experience the same level of luck because this meditation supports good karma. Okay, any more?
I think that's it. And I don't see any questions. I hope everybody knows that you can submit questions, but nobody's posted
Well,
questions.
if they submit them during the week, we'll answer them next week. I mean, I do love the questions, so
Yeah,
please, if you've got questions, please submit them.
submit your question.
Please, please. So yes, I hope everybody got something out of that. That peripatetic rave that we call the Hangout. So anything else I need to talk about, Peter?
I think that just should be it for tonight. Thank you very
Okay.
much, David. And
Oh no, thank you.
as I said, we posted on the page the video David was talking about with George Harrison, the concert.
Yeah. Do
Um,
play it, celebrate your life. When you play this, you will feel your heart expand. This is a hymn to spirituality, and you will feel your heart expand. Just let it expand and express that joy, that pleasure, that gratitude in any way you can. Sorry, Peter, go on.
it's okay. Actually, here's a question somebody just posted. Did you also see the Kinks in London?
I have seen the Kinks several times, yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I used to go to a club in Wardour Street in Soho called the Marquee, and I would go on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. I would go to the Marquee, and then I would go from the Marquee to another club called the Cromwellian. At the Marquee, I would see people like the Animals. And I'd go to another club called the Cromwellian, where I'd hang out for a few hours, and then I'd go down to the Flamingo, where I'd see Georgie Fame. And I mean, my whole life was made up of jumping from club to club. My weekends were amazing. I would go out on Friday and not get home until Monday, and on the way I would get absolutely, completely and utterly ripped to pieces, but I dance. I danced the whole weekend. I used to dance until my feet bled. But that's one of the things that speed does for you, gives you bleeding feet. Yeah, I saw lots of people in small clubs, what's more, when they were first starting out.
Hmm.
Very lucky, you see. So lucky. Just, I mean, how lucky is that? It just is really lucky to be born at that time. I mean, I was walking around Soho in London when graffiti was appearing saying Clapton is God. I mean, wow, you know, what a privilege. What a privilege to be in that place at that time. Okay, that's all.
Yeah. Well, here's another question. Claudia West had asked that question, and actually, her question was one that I was going to ask as well. She asked, "Do you know that Dave Davies is a very spiritual person as well?"
Yes, I did know. I don't know that he meditates, but there are a lot of people that do. I mean, something as good as TM tends to get around. It is expensive to learn, so you get a lot of celebrities who practice this meditation. And Russell Brand, for example, practices
Mm.
TM. David Lynch, what a big surprise that was.
Yeah.
Long time meditator.
Yeah.
There are just so many music people and movie people who practice this technique. I mean, Clint Eastwood has meditated for nearly 60 years, I believe.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that amazing? I
I
mean,
Yeah. I tend to think anybody that has done great things has very likely been a meditator.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hello. Yeah, so um, yes, there are lots and lots of people who are TMers. But then, you know, TM is just one technique. There are lots of techniques. Any technique that does it for you, does it for you, and that's what you need. You need it to do it for you.
Exactly. Very true. Yeah, and I think our what we well, we talk here about TM primarily because that's your practice. We
Yes.
welcome all forms of meditation. Everybody that meditates, please join us. Please join the Global Brain Project meditations every Saturday,
Yeah.
6 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and 11 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. UK time. And the amazing thing about all of this is that it's free. It's
Yeah.
free to meditate. It's free to join us, and it's an amazing phenomenon that we're putting forward here. So do join us, and I think that could be it for tonight, David. Are you still there?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I've kind of talked myself out.
Okay.
Um, okay, let's hope we get some more questions. Um, even mundane questions about music people I've seen. I can talk about that at
Yeah.
length.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's a shame nobody's going to ask questions about 3D because I can talk about computing 3D at length as well.
Well, I was going to say maybe you could post up some of your pictures, and we can discuss that as well at some point.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Peter.
Well,
Thank
great.
you, everybody. Thank you, Peter. It was great, really great.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Always a pleasure, David. And so join us next week at the same time. And
Yes, please.
until then, and submit your questions to the page. Okay. Well, good night, everybody. Good
Yes,
night.
good night.